Why is water important? Why is it necessary? Because it keeps us alive. That's basically it. Now, why are we talking about corporate capture of our water? Does that scare you? It scares me. And it just increases my resolve to change this system. So I'm going to share with you guys. First, I'm going to share this tweet by More Perfect Union. They do great work when it comes to bringing attention to these things. And this is actually what caught my attention the first time. So let me enlarge this really quick. 1, 2, 3. And More Perfect Union says this week, Biden's National Infrastructure Advisory Council recommended privatizing the country's water. Privatizing this vital resource that for-profit entities abuse whenever they can is a terrible and dangerous idea. Biden must reject this outright. Biden's National Infrastructure Advisory Council. Let's get into it. So, let's get into the article really quick. Just to share with you guys the details of what Biden plans to do. So this is out of Common Dreams. Common Dreams is actually a really good site also to get some of your news and information from. Common Dreams, World Socialist Website, Black Agenda Report, The Gray Zone. These are sites that are great to get a lot of your news from, especially in regards to workers, in regards to policy, things like that. So it says Biden infrastructure report pushes disastrous water privatization schemes, watchdog says. The blurb says President Biden should have never appointed an investment banker to chair an advisory council for the nation's infrastructure. It starts off, it says, an under-the-radar report by the U.S. President Joe Biden's National Infrastructure Advisory Council should not go unnoticed, says the watchdog Food and Water Watch. This Thursday, it says, as buried in the document is a call for the privatization of U.S. water systems, which progressive lawmakers and civil society groups have long opposed. On page 15 of the 38-page report, the Advisory Council said the federal government should remove, quote, remove barriers to privatization, concessions, and other non-traditional models of funding community water systems in conjunction with each state's development of best practice. Food and Water Watch suggested that the recommendation goes hand in hand with the panel chairmanship of Adebayo Ogunlesi, who is the chairman and CEO of Global Infrastructure Partners, GIP. GIP is an infrastructure investment bank with an estimated $100 billion in assets under management that targets energy, transportation, digital, and water infrastructure, making the takeover of public water and wastewater utilities by the private corporation, often under the guise of improving aging systems and lowering costs, financially beneficial for the bank. So really, it's just the banks are at it again. Guess who's back, back again. The bank's back. Tell a friend. This is what's wrong with our society today, is the fact that the banks are now saying, well, we got the oil, we got the gold, we got the uranium, we got the manganese, we got the rubber, we got the cocoa, we got the timber. What else can we have? Water. Remember when Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, said that there will be wars fought over water? something tells me that she was actually saying something under the radar. That's just it. Now our water is at risk. I mean, technically it already was. It's no surprise that there has been some privatization of water in local municipalities, but it's not as widespread as what they're trying to make it be now. Shall we continue? Quote, Mary Grant, Public Water for All campaign director at FWW, called the recommendation a terrible idea. Quote, President Biden should have never appointed an investment banker to chair the advisory council for the nation's infrastructure. Wall Street wants to take control of the nation's public water systems to wring profits from communities that are already struggling with unaffordable water bills and toxic water. This is the point. Because a lot of us, our water systems are municipally owned. But now they're saying, you know what? We want it all to be privatized. Because that's money that they're just itching to get. They just want that water. They want that sweet, sweet cash. That's one of the resources that they do not have full control over. If they could, they would own the fucking ocean. And they're working towards it. The thing that you need, that you cannot survive more than 3 days without, they also want to put that paywall up so that you have to pay through the nose just to live. They already got your food. They already got your housing. I mean, we already technically pay for water, but that's really just through, a lot of us is through municipal systems. But this is going to exponentially raise your bills regarding utilities, in particular water. And whose administration is trying to do this? Oh, we have to make sure that we vote for Biden, or else we'll get Trump back. Oh my God. Oh gosh. It continues, says, FWW has analyzed water privatization schemes for years, finding that they often leave communities with higher water bills, worse service, job losses, and little control to fix these problems. Now, I'm not going to read this entire article, but I do want to get this part right here. That this bill that they're trying to pass in order to prevent this says, instead of relying on Wall Street investors, President Biden should support policies that will truly help communities by asking Congress to pass the Water Affordability, Transparency, Equity, and Reliability Act, or the Water Act. So this is H.R. 1729 and S. Bill 938. Introduced in 2021 by Representatives Ro Khanna and Brenda Lawrence in the U.S. House and Senator Bernie Sanders in the Senate, the Water Act would expand funding to small, rural, and indigenous communities, create a water trust fund projects to eliminate and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, contamination, and require the Environmental Protection Agency to analyze water affordability, shutoffs, and civil rights violations by water utilities, among other steps to improve water access. Now, this is something that I just wanted to add that there are bills that are in the works. But will these bills pass? Will these bills be signed into law? That remains to be seen. But this is what's going on right now within the United States. Now, why is privatization of a vital need so bad? Go ahead, put in the comments. Why is privatization of a vital need bad? First of all, what is the first and primary motive? Profit, right? If profit is the primary motive, then what are some things that can fall by the wayside in a capitalist system? The profit motive encourages infinite growth with finite resources. So what can happen? Things such as safety measures that will be either curtailed or cut. So therefore, the safety of our water is at risk. Prices can and will rise beyond what we can afford. And we're already having a hard time affording it now. Infrastructure being neglected because they do not want to take that money away from the profits and reinvest into the infrastructure. And so those are just some of the issues that are present with privatization of the water system. Because the people who would be at the head of these privatized water companies would have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, to the people at the top, not to the people who the service provides. At best, the service would be the second most important responsibility, not the primary. Whereas if it's owned collectively, either municipally or statewide or community, on a community basis, then that means that the fiduciary responsibility of that municipality, that city, that county, is to its citizens and to make sure that the water is clean and safe. They, the corporate dictators, do not have that in mind. Their priority is for the money, 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 money. That's what it is. And so this is why privatization is always a bad idea. Look at our healthcare system. Look what privatization has done there. Look at our education system. What has privatization done there? Military industrial complex. Need I say more? So there is a video that I want to share with you guys because this actually shows what could happen if we allow something like this to happen. If Joe Biden decides to go along with this recommendation, which means that these companies can also, are probably most likely in the pockets of these politicians, so they would be game for allowing this to pass. This is a future that we will have to see. Now, this video is entitled Water Privatization is a Con, and it's going to explain why and what is the result, because it's already happened in a Western country. And you guys will find out right now.
This is a story about the pollution of our rivers and beaches and billions of pounds of wasted money. Welcome to the headquarters of Thames Water, Britain's biggest water company. Like most of England's water companies, it was privatised by the Conservatives in 1989. At the time, the Tories wrote off the company's debts for the new private owners and handed the bill to us, the taxpayer.
A water privatisation, I believe, will go very successfully indeed. That will go very successfully indeed.
So, who owns...
Oh, it will go very successful indeed, successfully killing thousands and thousands of poor people. Oh my goodness, isn't it wonderful? Yes! Oh yes, the sound of screaming children. Oh, it just brings me to light. Oh. Look. Of course, Ronald Reagan's drag queen is absolutely wrong about this. Successful for the people of the UK? No, especially Britain. But successful for the businesses? I think that's what she was really saying. She wasn't really talking about the people. She was talking about the businesses. She was talking about the billionaires. She was talking about the multimillionaires, the people at the top. And then on top of it, what did they say? Let's go back just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Water companies, it was privatised by the Conservatives in 1989. At the time, the Tories wrote off the company's debts for the new private owners and handed the bill to us, the tax.
So they actually paid off the debts on the backs of taxpayers, on the backs of federal dollars that really should have been used instead on the people. But it wasn't. This is what we look forward to if something like this happens here in this country. You see, here's the funny thing. They have a national healthcare system, which the conservatives are trying to privatize. And to be honest with you, the liberals are not doing much to stop it anyway. And then here we have a lot of municipally owned water systems, which they are trying to privatize here. And you see what's going on over there regarding the healthcare system, which we want to have. And they're seeing over here that we have a lot of municipally owned water systems, which they would like to have over there. But the problem that we both have is privatization. Is that these money-hungry, snot-nosed trolls are trying to take over the vital systems that we need to live. And it gets worse. But wait, there's more. Let's continue.
Taxpayer.
A water privatisation, I believe, will go very successfully indeed. That will go very successfully indeed.
So, who owns our water? Well, there's the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund that owns a stake in Thames Water, and Hong Kong billionaire Li Ka-shing's CK Infrastructure Holdings, which has a majority stake in Northumbrian Water. 7 Australian companies own at least 11% of English water, while US companies are the biggest owners, controlling at least 17%.
Did you guys know? Did you know? US companies own some of the water systems in the UK? So, of course, they see the UK and they're like, wow, we're making great money off this. Let's do it in our own country. And so they have a buddy in the White House. They have somebody that's sympathetic to them in the White House that they can just pour their money into and say, hey, how about we privatize it? It'll be better for the American people. Competition, right? Let me ask you something. Cable TV and internet service providers, how many choices do you have? I'll wait. That being the case, how can you have competition when they're the only game in town? You see, that's the problem with privatization, is that they're a monopoly. The difference between monopoly and government owned is, yes, each side is only one entity running that industry. Yes. But one side, monopoly side, which is produced by capitalism, it has its primary focus on profit. Whereas a government-owned side, whether it's city, county, state, or federal, is operated just at cost, paid for through taxation, and the responsibility is to make sure that the service is provided as effectively as possible to the people. Now, people will say, well, oh my God, the government does terrible jobs with, let's say, the VA. They'll do terrible jobs with, say, Social Security. They'll do terrible jobs, say, Medicare, things like that. They'll say that, right? But you have to go into your mindset with who's running the government. It's not us. So then when you see these systems failing, it's always because of the death of 1,000 cuts. Because the corporations are basically have their hand and they're puppeting the government. They took their hand, put it up the government's ass, and they're moving their mouth like a puppet. That's exactly what's going on. This is why a dictatorship of the proletariat or the dictatorship of the workers is so important. Because when we run shit, then these governmental systems will not fail. When we run this, then there will not be any money in politics, because we want these systems to operate for us, for the betterment of us, not profits. So that's the difference between monopoly and capitalism versus having an essential service like water, healthcare, education, food. This is why it is important to have it ran by the people. Let's continue.
In the 34 years after privatization, the mostly international investors who own England's 17 privatized water companies pocketed more than £57 billion in dividends.
57 billion pounds. That's what? 55 billion dollars, something like that. I think the pound is diminished in value since, so it's close to being equal to $1. But yeah.
But how did they afford to pay themselves so much? Well, for a start, they borrowed a lot of cash. The water company's debts rose from zero in 1989 to £60 billion today. Meanwhile, they chronically underinvested in sewage infrastructure, with the result.
Okay, I want you guys to listen closely to this. This is a very important point. This is why privatization is going to be the death of us. Pay attention.
Sewage infrastructure, with the result that our rivers and beaches are polluted. Just one example. In 2021, Thames Water was fined for discharging 500,000 litres of raw sewage into 2 streams in Oxford. The sewage poured into the water for 30 hours and spread for 2 miles through a pub garden and past community allotments. 3,000 fish died, including perch, chub, roach, gudgeon and bullheads, some of them up to 9 years old.
This is why privatization doesn't work. Because they will overlook the safety of the water systems. They will neglect keeping up the infrastructure for the sake of profit. And then when these infrastructures and safety systems fail, then who will be the one that will be... I'm not trying to make a joke out of this, but up a shit creek without a paddle. Who's going to be the one that's going to suffer? It's going to be us. You, me, your kids. I want you guys to think deeply how much you use water in a day. Think about how often you use water in your homes today. The moment you get up, what do? Like for me, I have a sip of water because, well, you're supposed to have about, it's healthy for you to have a drink of water, a glass of water within the first 30 minutes of waking up. But I have water, right? I keep it next to me in my bed, right? I reuse this bottle. You guys have seen me drink out of this bottle all the time. I reuse this bottle. I've been reusing this bottle for what, 8-9 months now. So I just refill with water. And so I drink water, then go to the bathroom, which includes using water to flush your toilet and using water to wash your hands. When I go take a shower, I have to use water. Then I have to go to the kitchen. And if my family does not clean the dishes or place the a spoon back, cleans and then place the spoon back, then I guess I have to wash it. But what do I wash it with? I have to wash it with water. You don't know how much you need water until it's shut off. Trust me, I know. I've been poor my entire life. We've had our water shut off. We've even had it shut off, not even for reasons that we couldn't afford it. It's just something happened and they're working on the pipes or something like that. You realize how much you need water. You need it throughout the day for different things. And so water literally is life. And they're trying to paywall life. And then they're not even going to take care of that life-sustaining substance. They're going to just focus on profit. And when it becomes contaminated with raw sewage, what's going to happen? You're going to get sick. You're not going to have healthcare to actually take care of yourself. Or you're going to be paying through the nose just to take care of yourself because you or your kids or your pets get raw sewage. Imagine showering in contaminated water. Your skin absorbs that too, right? That's what they're doing. This is why privatization is a bad idea.
Robert Davis from the Environment Agency witnessed the scene. He said it was quite horrific. Sewage pollution was bank to bank and there was a foul stench of raw sewage. When we traced the source, we found a waterfall of raw sewage discharging via a pipe into the streams. Amongst the dead fish, fisheries officers observed hundreds more on the surface, suffering and gasping for oxygen. In 2022, there were over 389,000 discharges of untreated sewage into UK rivers.
That's all.
The UK is consistently ranked as one of the worst countries in Europe for water quality. Last year, the water companies lost 3 billion litres of water a day.
I just want to go back to a point. I want to hone in on this point right here.
Last year, the water companies lost 3 billion litres of water a day. And the same companies are now asking for a 40%.
Oh, hang on.
The UK is consistently ranked as one of the worst countries in Europe for water quality.
That part. The UK has some of the worst water quality in Europe. Capitalism breeds innovation. If it breeded innovation, then UK water would actually be the best in Europe. If it breeded innovation. But it doesn't breed innovation, because if it did, then they wouldn't have to worry about the cleanliness and the quality of their water in the UK. But they do. Because the privatization and the greed, that's why. This is what we stand to see in the United States if this happens. This is why this is such an important issue. Water is extremely important. This is your life at stake here. And this has gone unreported. I'm not seeing this on mainstream media. This is your life at stake, bro. Capitalism, it does nothing but stifle innovation for the sake of profit. And people want to sit here and go, well, no, because you have a cell phone, you have an iPhone in your hand. That's capitalism. No, dipshit, that's not capitalism. That's public universities doing research and innovation. And then companies take it and then they privatize it and they use it to make more profit. That's all it is. These systems are created publicly with public money. And then these companies will take the idea, patent it, and make sure nobody else can use it. And then they will privatize it and make money off of it. Make money off of a public idea. And then we get shafted because they neglected us, because they are taking control of a vital service that keeps us alive. And then what happens? We die. We suffer. Our bills go up. All because they decided they wanted more money. Hell no. Hell to the fuck no. No. We're not going to be like the UK and have our water like this. Absolutely not. Because it is asinine. It is crazy to think that if they can't keep their water systems up and it's privatized, what the fuck makes you think they're going to be able to do it here? It don't make no goddamn sense. Like, holy shit, are you kidding me right now? But this is the type of person that Biden is. This is the type of people he puts in his office. And don't come at me with, oh, well, Trump would do something different. No, the fuck he wouldn't. Trump would do the exact same thing. Why? Because he's in it with the other billionaires. And don't come for me in the comments. Because Trump is a billionaire, he's going to look out for his buddies. Look at the Trump tax cuts. And who is keeping the Trump's tax cuts? Joe Biden. They're basically one and the same. And then you got black people out here going, oh, well, I'm going to vote for Trump. Man, get your get the fuck out of the plantation. Liberals and conservatives, get out of the plantation. They're both horrible. You're fooling yourself. Now you have one orange dipshit and one dipshit that doesn't know what the fuck he is trying to say, oh, well, we should just privatize everything because privatizing everything makes everything better. If it privatized made everything better, then this country would be better. Yet, it's not. You're suffering. Why the hell did you click on this video? Why the hell did you click on it? Because you realize that you're suffering and you're done with this shit. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a rant, but this just, as somebody that is immunocompromised and disabled, I'm already suffering financially. By the time today's the 3rd. Okay, by the time my rent comes out today, my account's going to be zero. Zero. Because my rent, number one, my rent's too goddamn high. Number two, my utility company is actually municipally owned, and we're still suffering. So imagine if it gets privatized. Imagine how much more we would have to pay, because I actually have to pay for water too. It's not just electricity, I pay for water. And then on top of that, for them to not keep the systems in place and then I get sick even more. I've already almost went into septic shock back in 2019, almost died. So what, you're gonna put me at risk for E. coli, staph, and other infections as well, just through my drinking water? Even if you get filtered water, like for instance, we have a water cooler because we still don't trust the water to drink. If they privatize it and something happens, I still got to take a shower in that shit. I still have to wash my hands. I still have to wash my dishes. I still have to wash my clothes. And libertarians are like, well, we just need to privatize everything. See how that goes. Y'all good on war, but when it comes to other stuff.
Last year, the water companies lost 3 billion litres of water a day. And the same companies are now asking for a 40% hike in bills.
This is what I was saying. How are you doing on affording food right now? Has the price of eggs went down that much? How about meat? Is the price of chicken still? Has the price of chicken went down? What about beef? What about pork? What about fish? What about the price of milk? What about it? We're still struggling just to feed ourselves. And now you mean to tell me that our water bills can also go up to 40% higher on our water? That's what privatization does. Because when it's municipally owned, the only prices that you pay are for operations costs, maintenance, and then they probably put away some just for emergencies, but that's it. That's all you pay for. When it's privatized, then they actually have to raise it in order to get profit. Because ultimately, municipalities just need to break even. They don't need to make more money. They just need to have money stocked away for emergencies as well as pay for operations. That's it. They don't need profit. Private companies do. So when private companies need profit, that means that the prices of everything goes up. We got to think about this, y'all. Let's continue.
And which is the leakiest company? Thames Water, of course. Now, Thames Water is teetering on the brink of collapse, but who'll be on the hook if the company goes under? Will it be those international investors who racked up the debt while taking billions in dividends and piping sewage into our waterways? Or will it be us, the UK taxpayer? Over to you, Prime Minister.
And that's the point. Now, I was thinking about the water system that comes to my house. And if any of you live in the Orlando or Central Florida area, you guys know about OUC, or Orlando Utilities Commission. So I was just like, let me take a look. Because the thing is, I never really actually researched my water company. Orlando Utilities Commission says the Orlando Utilities Commission, OUC, the reliable one, is a municipally owned public utility providing electric and water services to the citizens of Orlando, Florida, St. Cloud, Florida, and unincorporated Orange and Osceola counties. Established in 1923, so yes, it is its 100th year, by a special act of Florida legislator, OUC is the second largest municipal utility in Florida and the 14th largest municipal in the country. OUC provides electric, water, chilled water, and or lighting services to 400,000 accounts. The company is governed by a 5-member commission, including the mayor of Orlando, and our mayor of Orlando right now is Buddy Dyer, which is responsible for all operating policies. OUC has maintained the best electric reliability in the state for 21 years in a row when compared to Florida's investor-owned utilities. Our power is produced by OUC-owned Stanton Energy Center via a diverse fuel portfolio, which includes nearly 20 megawatts of solar energy. And our clean, safe, great-tasting water, that's debatable, which is pumped from lower Floridan aquifer, undergoes more than 20,000 chemical and bacteriological water quality tests each year, including tests for more than 135 regulated and unregulated substances like lead and copper. So basically, that's what it is, and it is a government agency. But if it was privatized, then it would no longer be a government agency. That 1,000 to 5,000 employees would get cut, which means service and quality would diminish. So that's the problem. Our systems would fall by the wayside. So this is one of the reasons why this is a bad idea. Because if it can happen in a Western nation like the UK, it can happen here. And guaranteed it will happen here. This is why I think that the private equity and things like that should not be permitted by law to own anything that provides an essential service to sustain or give life. They should not be able to have any type of ownership of it. This includes healthcare. Private equity should be banned from food companies. Private equity should be banned when it comes to, when I say healthcare, I mean not just hospitals. I'm also talking about medical device manufacturers. I'm talking about nursing homes. I'm talking about clinics, pharmaceuticals. Yeah, no. No private equity. No private equity when it comes to housing. They should be banned from housing as well. Private equity should also be banned from utilities, including internet service providers. and we should nationalize or municipalize or stationalize our internet service providers. So when it comes to the privatization, which was actually a word that was coined in Nazi Germany, that's a preview. This is why it's a bad idea. Anything connected really to Nazis is just a bad idea.